you're listening to this podcast, chances are you've felt the heartbreaking impact of trauma and abuse in your own story, or in the stories of those you care about. The truth is, we all carry the weight of personal and collective trauma. It's part of living in this world. And yet, we also know we were made for more. We were made for connection, wholeness, and a life marked by faith, hope, and love. If you desire more for yourself, for the people you love, and for your community, I want to personally invite you into narrative-focused trauma care training with us here at the Allender Center. Narrative-focused trauma care, or NFTC for short, is a methodology developed by the Allender Center and built on the lifelong work of Dr. Dan Allender in the field of trauma and abuse recovery. It brings together psychology and theology to give you a holistic framework as you enter into your story and the stories of those around you with wisdom and care. It begins with NFTC Level 1. Throughout 4 intensive training weekends, you'll receive foundational teaching from our team. But this isn't just theory. You'll also roll up your sleeves and enter into your own story, because as Dan says, we cannot take anyone further than we've been willing to go ourselves. In small groups with a trained facilitator, you'll actually participate in the work of story engagement, sharing your story and learning to listen well to the stories of others. Whether you're a therapist, ministry leader, or simply someone longing for deeper personal healing, this training invites you into a process of exploring your story, naming both your pain and your goodness, and growing in your capacity to love and lead well. Applications for NFTC Level 1 are now open. If you're ready to begin the journey toward deeper healing in your own story and a renewed calling to bring compassion, courage, and hope to the world around you, we invite you to visit theallendercenter.org/trainings.
Thank you for listening to the Allender Center podcast. I'm Dr. Dan Allender.
And I'm Rachael Clinton Chen. We're fiercely committed to providing hope and healing to a fragmented world.
And restoration for the heart.
Thank you for joining us. Let's get this conversation started.
Rachael, I met Kate many moons ago, and I'm going to introduce her in a moment. But let's just say there are guests and then there are guests. And Kate is one of those guests where I just want to say we are so incredibly privileged to know and have the opportunity to talk about this remarkable woman's life, Kate Ouimette-Wedell. Kate Ouimette-Wedell. And Kate, welcome. I'll introduce you in a moment, but just wanted to say, so good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kate is the founder of Cherished LA, and it's a survivor-led organization out of human trafficking, out of the issue of exploitation and trauma. And she is as well an author of the book Exposed, and indeed has come out of her own heartache of exploitation. And I think one of our first longer conversations, even though we were so privileged to have you go through our narrative-focused trauma care work, but one of our longer conversations was at the organization called ICAP, the International Christian Alliance on Prostitution. And all I can say is the interplay between you are hilarious. You are a woman of such deep heart and with a capacity. One of the ways I think of the resurrection is that it creates the context for deep, deep grief, but also deep laughter. And I would say you are a woman of deep grief and deep laughter. And so what a delight to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Dan. That was beautiful. And it is just such a privilege to be here, and not something I ever thought would happen. And I'm super excited and feel very delighted to have had this, that feel like God saw me and placed me in this in this moment, and I'm just very excited about it.
Yeah, and I go back to the fact that I can see where you're sitting next to the window as we're looking out at the Green Lake in Wisconsin. And I think, sometimes the level of my own obtuseness at times actually becomes very troubling. And I remember we're having this conversation, and it was like, why have we not had you on the podcast? It's insane. So, anyway, at least we've been able to bridge my obtuse and insane lack of understanding. So tell us and our folks listening a little bit about you and how truly, and this is a great phrase, in the name of God did you start Cherished LA?
Yeah. So I'm originally from the East Coast. I'm from Georgia. And then I went to school in North Carolina and ended up going to beauty school to become a cosmetologist. But my real dream was to be in the music business, in the entertainment world. And that came from my father, who was a World War II veteran. He was a jazz musician, and in those days, we didn't have the influencers that people have today. Our influencers were television, and whatever they showed that week, and also music and albums. And my dad's albums were the thing that I think influenced me the most. I remember one of his favorites was the Herb Alpert album, Whipped Cream. Do you remember that?
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
I'm dating myself.
Sorry,
So
Rachel.
No, it's great.
but that album cover was so provocative and beautiful and artistic at the same time, and then the music was great. So, I would sit and stare at his albums, and that is, later what propelled me to chase after music, I think on both our behalfs, because, he died when I was 5, and that was a
Oh,
tragic event in our home, but, um, that was a part of him that continued to, uh really parent me without even being there, that I wanted to follow something of his world, his footsteps. And so, um, I later went to beauty school, and then I left that when I got the opportunity to join a band, and that ended up bringing me to LA. And I was here for less than 24 hours when I was sold by someone I trusted and thought was my friend for drugs. And, when that reality hit, I was basically homeless, or, I was relying on him, and, he decided to, sell me to someone, and there's where I landed with no money and, in a situation that created, basically survival sex in order to survive. And, a lot of people don't understand that that is a window and a gateway of things that happen when you feel so vulnerable. And so that's what led me to LA. And it would be 10 years, almost 11 years of being in the commercial sex industry, trying to get out of the frying pan and jumping into the fire. Um, and that world was just a nightmare, really, but I thought that I was chasing my dreams, and I thought I was coming for a completely different reason, but within 24 hours, my world was completely turned upside down, and it would be like quicksand for 11 years, and the more I struggled to get out, the more it held me captive.
The reality of how many people end up being prostituted in the context of it isn't a choice. It isn't a process by which anyone would choose normally, but the reality of being caught and then being used. So that is why it's such an important word to have, and that is the word exploitation.
Yes.
And how would you describe, especially for people who have not heard someone talk about trafficking, how trafficking, in one sense, becomes quicksand and catches you again and again? How does that structure exist?
Yeah, it's, um, such a mashup of emotions that, to be chosen by someone, whether it be one of my traffickers came to me as a boyfriend, as actually someone that before the boyfriend phase, he really was able to groom me because he was from another country and he recognized with my, at the time, very Southern accent that I was not from here. And he really worked that part of the relationship to let me know, like, I understand what it feels like to be so alone. You and I have the same thing. And then there was my just huge desire to know other cultures and travel. I had never been anywhere. So LA was my first time out of the small area that I had been in. And um, so I just was overwhelmed and fascinated and, captivated by him, honestly. And began to learn about his culture and his world and just fell for him, fell hard. And he would bring me beautiful gifts and treat me differently. I was actually working in a strip club when I met him, but he didn't approach me as a client. He would come and play such a smooth game. He would sit in the very back and he never, tipped or tried to flirt with anybody. He would just wait to keep me company in between sets or if I was having a bad night. And then it turned into, well, why don't we live together? And so I lived with him. I ended up moving in because I was staying in and out of hotels at the time. And from there is when everything shifted. And I didn't have the language for it at the time, but he was a pimp and he had every intention of selling me from the beginning to clients, and he had a beautiful big home. He even allowed me to drive his very nice car to work for a while, but then he switched that and had a bodyguard that would actually drive me to and from and collect my money at the end of the day and say, we're in this together. We're saving money so that we can do something together. And but in the meantime, at home, he was turning a downstairs room into a lounge where he would have drug parties and people over. And then other girls came to live with us, and we were all having to serve his friends and clients that came over. And um, when I finally realized this is what was happening, I was devastated. I was still in such a naive kind of a place thinking, I thought he loved me. I thought this was
Mhm.
something different and still in shock by that, but so angry. And when I let him know my true feelings about the whole situation, he beat me up and asked the bodyguard to get rid of me. And so they threw me in the car, and the bodyguard actually ended up, after about an hour of driving around, had mercy and just let me out. I'm sure that's not what his instructions were. And so, um, yeah, it was just, it's such a shock. And then when you find yourself in that place, now survival is kicked in, and I have to do whatever it takes to live, just to live. And you begin to, just beg. And I remember asking a hotel, please just give me a room for a night. I'll go back to the club and make money and pay you. And, things like that were just on and on. At one point, I had a girl ask me I was in the dressing room at the strip club, and two of the girls, I began to realize like the women here we're all we have so much hope. There's so much hope, and women are expecting something different to come out of this, that their break is going to come and that day is going to finally show up, that things will change. And um, I heard two girls talking about an audition one of them was going to, and it sounded like she was getting her big break. And she said, you should come and audition for this girl. She knows all the celebrities in town and she has an escort service. You don't have to do anything. You just go on dates, which is not the truth. And maybe that's what she still believed, but she did go on her audition, I think, the next day. And convinced me to go and audition for this woman. And it was from there that she was able to traffic me and blackmail me that if I wanted to break into this industry, I would have to go through her because now she knew what I was doing and she would use that. And if I
Wow.
were to badmouth her or make her look bad with any of these celebrity clients by not doing what I was asked to do, again, she would blacklist me. And so there's always some threat that, for whatever reason, it's the threat that you will believe and also believing your value at this point, like, what do I have to bring to the table? How can I get out of this? I mean, I was a cosmetologist before, but coming to LA, I couldn't just go work in a salon. It wasn't that easy. You have to switch your license to by taking another exam, and you need money to do that, and you need somebody to be your model. And it's just simple things, but they seem huge at the time that, and it felt like I couldn't overcome that. Not at that point, not at that day.
Well, and that's the reality that in so many ways, this process functions similarly to how any predator works. Grooming,
That's right.
setting up, creating something of a network of relationship. And so much trafficking has been the boyfriend setting up exploitation, creating a context. And I'm assuming that what you find with regard to the work that you do now in LA, that's a very common paradigm.
Very common, and so often women still don't recognize, they know something isn't right, and they may stumble across a program or a support group, but I have found that it's sometimes we're doing work for a while before they're able to really name that they have to dissolve that loyalty. They have to see that this is not what they thought it was, but that's such a hard thing to look at because then you have to look at yourself and why did I choose this?
Mm-hmm.
There's the mashup of wanting of that desire, wanting to be chosen, and now I have so much shame around it.
Well, and I'm just thinking about the role of like how cut off you are from community. And certainly a lot of healing communities that would not, who haven't done the work to have categories for this kind of grooming, this level of exploitation and an actual system that's working to exploit you so that they could use that against you. And how painful that must be to not have as many avenues for help, where people actually know what kind of help you need, exactly what you're putting words to. And I'm so curious, Kate, like I have had the profound privilege of holding story with you through the NFTC training. What a sweet gift. And you are just such a fierce and tender and delightful and beautiful human being. So it's just so fun to be having this conversation with you. And I know that story work has offered, such beautiful gifting to you. And I also know you've had not good experiences of seeking help. And I'm sure this is something you've also seen in your work with others. But not that I would love to hear about that, but I think it would be helpful for people to know that what is actually healing and helpful and what is re-traumatizing and actually probably going to drive people back to places of profound harm.
Oh my gosh, that is the golden ticket right there because um when I first had gotten married and hadn't done any work and understood my background or anything that how it was following me and still with me, the trauma of all of that harm. um Relationship intimacy was actually not welcome all the time. It's not something that I feel like I've had plenty, and not intimacy I haven't had plenty of, but I've had plenty of interactions and that I just it needed to be really different for it to be something for me to be excited about. And so, my then husband and I went to counseling because I was like, this arguing and all of this is just, we have to go get help. Someone suggested we went to a Christian counselor in our area where we lived. And when we walked in, I remember sitting down And remember, he's very reluctant to even be in the room. So I remember sitting down, putting down my purse, and I'm just so relieved we're finally going to start to talk about some things. And the first thing she said to me was, so what's the problem? And then I think he talked about sex. And then she said to me, you need to have sex with your husband whenever he wants it because you are physically killing him.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And no curiosity about my story, about, you don't tell someone who's been sexually abused and raped thousands of times. And I'm speaking of all the women that I know, like so many harmful stories. I can't imagine looking at them and saying, you should enjoy sex. You should have sex. You should. It's not that I shouldn't have said the word enjoy because that's not really the problem. Um, but the intimacy and the relationship, and for her to say that, I just won't say the words I said to her here on the podcast, but I had some choice words for her, and I picked up my purse and I walked out the door, and I
Wow.
thought,
Yes.
this is what therapy is like. I was longing for therapy, and this was my experience of it. So fast forward years later, when someone put Dan's book in my hand, and I began to read it, I remember getting really angry and throwing it across the room. I was laying in my bed at night and reading it, and I was so pissed off at him. And
So honored. Thank you.
because you just touched into those places that weren't being named, and making, I had to look at my story like I had not wanted to look at the whole story. And so that's how I ended up finding the Allender Center. A friend took me to that. Shout out to Ro. I know you're listening. And so I went to the Allender to Cert 1, and my mind was blown. And that's what I mean, the golden ticket. Like, I would not be where I'm at today if I had not gone through the Allender work. And I recognize when working with survivors, it's not the appropriate time always for everyone to do this deep of work,
Right.
but
Right.
it is such a great modality to have and understand, to be able to help these women name the harm that has happened for them. And that is something I have recognized with survivors, I would say, in my experience, limited, that versus working with people who are not maybe survivors of the sex industry, um, I have found that even for myself, it is much more helpful when someone like Dan names the harm right out loud, hard as it is to hear, for me, because we know darkness. We know it. We're not hiding from it. It's not that. It's actually, I need you to tell me what it was so that I can have some containment after that of how
Yeah.
to, and have someone like you, Rachel, when you worked with me in that room. I know I that's another thing. I feel so like really bad that I entered that room with, daggers in my hands because I didn't want, no one was going to get close to my story. Nobody was going to do it. Nobody was going to know how to do it. Like, you might know what you're doing, but you don't know my story.
Uh-huh.
And I had such a attitude. And
No.
but Rachel, you were
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Rachel, are you saying no to that? You're saying no, she didn't?
I mean, she did, but it was like she's also very dear. And so it's like someone who's got daggers and you see them. And so you need to be kind and honoring, but also like she let herself out. Like she was so dear to everyone, and her kindness and how she brought herself to others. It's that thing of like, yeah, I don't want to get cut by you, but I'm also like not afraid of you.
Let me just say, as a quick aside, as if we're not having people listen, you are both formidable human beings. And in that formidable, shall we say, capacity to take out weapons, there's also this deep, 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 tender capacity to receive. But I would say, and again, I wasn't obviously in the group, but It took a while for you to trust that Rachel was as disturbed as she is.
Fair.
Yes, it was wonderful. It was a wonderful revelation. And
Because she looks normal at first. I
Mhm.
mean, and she looks so sweet and innocent. I mean, this looks like a church girl, doesn't it? So here's a woman who has known deep, vicious, incomprehensible cruelty, and you're going to work with a story like yours with a church girl. I would imagine that that was kind of disturbing at first.
It's how I viewed everyone, um, that, like, there's it was very othering, like, everyone else and then us, the survivors, um, and I'm so thankful, and this is really strange to say I'm thankful, but I was just so grateful to hear so many stories, of people coming forward with stories, and I'm not talking about comparison in any way, I'm just saying, like, it was so beautiful to see, like, one story is enough that we need to spend that time and honor that place and be with that, and, um, it was so beautiful, and the whole experience, I mean, Rachel, when you cried with me, I did not understand what was happening, but I felt like I saw you with the sword, It was like
Mm.
that. It was like you're crying with me, it was like, mama's got a sword, and she will cut anything that is gonna try to stop this healing from happening, and that's how it really felt. I felt very protected and loved. And that's the first time um, I met. A side note: I met Trapper when I was there, and he became my therapist, which was a whole nother thing. I was like, "Can you handle this?" Um, and he helped me really kind of talking about you, Rachel, and it was like, she really mothered you in a way that you, with the mothers, like the tears you never got to see on your behalf. And I was like, that was it. It melted my heart, and it put a place in there where something could begin to open, and, um, life could begin to come in. It was beautiful. So the Allender Center has been a huge piece of my healing. But as I said, when I work with survivors, I'm so grateful to have this. Um, I have kind of like a double standard. I think that all of the people who do this kind of work should go the distance and do the hard work of story work. Um, because you will be triggered by all of this. Something will come up for you in your own story that you have tried to put aside and ignore, and it will come up. Um, so I have a double standard. Everyone who's doing this work, they need to get their own work done because, like Dan said, I always quote that you can only take people as far as you've been yourself. So if you're not doing the work, you will come to a wall. And then with the survivors, of course, it's we have this tool. We're able to do this work with them when they're ready, and that's the
Yeah.
difference.
Love to hear something of, well, I know there's no quick, certainly not quick, but even a sequence, like when people begin to just find your existence and begin that process, with like you, they're highly suspicious. They have known some of the darkest realities of living in a fallen world. Yet, by making that first phone call or coming into a group, they're exhibiting a level of courage that's almost incomprehensible, a kind of hope, even if the hope's hated, a
Uh-huh.
profound sense of, I'm going to take a risk in a way that I've never done before. So, how do you help people in the beginning level to hold that suspicion, but also hold that hope?
Mm. Yeah, I recognize it right away when it comes in the room. Um, and I I feel so honored and excited for them that they have made that choice to step into that space. I feel this is where I am a Christian, and so I'm really relying on those Holy Spirit to give me the moment and time and when I approach or say certain things. And um, so we will get a phone call or somebody will hear about our program. They come to, let's say, a support group, or if they call me because they need housing, because we have 2 homes, and so maybe they come to live in our home. Um, I have to tell them all right up front, all of the this is what is expected and here's our rules and here's the things, but it's such a fine line because we're trying to create a place of safety, but we also want for them to have autonomy.
Yeah.
And so, just to side note, one of the things I learned from you, Dan, and when I was in all of the trainings, and you didn't know you were teaching me how to run my program, but you were. Um, I was really recognizing that I was having a lot of issues at one point with a lot of the women in the house, um, arguing with each other, or uh, or fighting, or wanting to watch horror films, and the other one didn't want to watch it. She's being triggered. This is going on. Like, a lot of these kind of conversations were happening, and I recognized, because of the training with you, that this was their familiar and safe.
Yeah.
It
Mm.
felt like normalizing the horrors that they have been through. And when I first started the program, I was like, "No, we don't watch anything but PG movies in the house." And I had all this, and then I started saying, "Well, is that actually giving them choice to figure life out? Not really. So let's give them more choice." And then that like burst into arguments and people like watching horror films and triggering other people. So now we have to deal with that. And so, but it was so good to have the behind understanding of, that groundwork. This is what feels normal. And can we be with that person
Mm.
who
Mm.
needs that to be normalized in her world right now in order to even open her eyes tomorrow? She needs to know that you can let me be in this darkness and you can sit with me here and we can come out together when I'm ready. And that is those are the steps I take with them. I just walk through some of the really dark places and wait, even though, I want something more, but it's not about me. It's about them. And one of the things I always try to remind people who do this work, they get so attached and want to help women, but it does become about us sometimes instead of about the person.
Ah,
And one of the things I wanna remind people is that you don't know what part of someone's journey you get to be on.
that's right.
And it's such a sacred offering and a moment when you are invited into somebody's journey, whether it be that phone call, and if
Yep.
it's only the phone call, or what if it's 2 years I get to walk with somebody, whatever it is, that's what my allotted time, my gift was. And I don't get to know the outcome, and I don't get to have the bow on top and make it all, and I did my job, pat myself on the shoulder. It might look like a big mess when my time is up still, but that was the time that I got, and that's sacred. And so I just want people to honor the moment you get to walk with somebody, and you're not there to fix it. You're not there to fix it. You're just there to give some offering, and that's why it's so important you know your own story, because if I hadn't known my own story, I wouldn't have understood the darkness that they needed to be in order for someone to sit with them enough to bring them into the next step when they felt safe enough to walk into that next step.
Well, and that there's such a parallel to that in any kind of story work around stories of harm, because I think that's a lesson I've had to learn in holding space for people to bring their stories of harm. I'm sure therapists, any kind of healing work, that's such beautiful, hard won wisdom of like, we don't know the moment of a journey we're on. And some people, it is like that. It's that moment that plants a seed that someday down the road might come to fruition. And we may not be there to see that because it's not about us.
Right.
Like, we are just meant to be faithful with the moment that we're given and how holy that is. And to trust that, like, the goodness we're offering, even if it feels insignificant, is more than sufficient. for that moment. And all of us could say from our own healing journeys, sometimes if people offered us like what we're really meant for in that particular moment, we weren't ready to receive that. Like we didn't have enough resourcing inside to take that amount of goodness. Like maybe we just needed like a little morsel and to see if we could tolerate that
Yeah.
before we could actually receive more. And I just am grateful for you and your honesty and vulnerability there. And I know that's probably been really costly to come to. So I'm grateful for you sharing that.
I'm still trying to figure it out. There are so many times I still get it wrong and I get in my own way, rather than letting the moment happen the way it should. And, because I want to see something different. And
Yeah.
I have to hear my own reminder sometimes. Like,
Well, me too.
The work that you do is a work of profound extremity. No one's going to engage the reality of what you're inviting them to unless they have known something of deep decimation, something of such deep degrading. And the reluctance for any of us to actually bear kindness with ease. That's why we've got this significant category that we come back to often, where Paul says it is the kindness of God that leads to repentance. Why do you treat the kindness of God with contempt? So, one of the realities that I know from listening and hearing your work is that you dismantle contempt with like a triple black belt. Is that a fair metaphor?
I do feel like I'm at war with contempt a lot. Yes.
But you're also brilliant at dismantling it. True?
Yes. Oh, thank
Teach
you.
us. I mean, in one sense, the reality is most people don't encounter people with as much severity of harm as you do as a regular basis. But you've learned in some ways the jujitsu of engaging rather thick contempt. I would just love for you to put some words to tell us about your skill.
Well, I've never heard that, so I haven't really thought about that much. I um I think I see myself and I, go, okay, all right, I know what this is. And so I get there. I get to that level of like, I totally understand this and I feel, and I can just articulate with them my own contempt of those moments. And I think that that helps so much when I mean, isn't that what the story work is all about, is not being alone in your
Mhm.
story and having someone understand and see you, really see you, to be seen. Isn't it so amazing and life-giving? And I think that is what all of the leaders have done with me, with Rachael and with you, Dan, at Recovery Week, um, and sometimes being seen is really painful.
Oh, terrible. And it's again, contempt is alienating. In some sense, its purpose is to alienate, therefore isolate, therefore justify why it is that your kindness apparent can't be trusted. So in that sense, you have read others through the heartache of your own. And in that, um, again, what I would say is just being around you, we laughed at that table a lot that evening. We had dinner with Becky and a few others. So how does humor, how does humor, your hilarity, play into this?
I think we have to see ourselves sometimes, and I do laugh at um, some of the idiosyncrasies or things that you know, uh, today when I came into the studio, he told me there was a little camera set up on the computer, and I was like, "Not cameras," and so and then I recognized, like, well, I have a lot of work to do around some of the stuff, where I can still get messed up by the smallest
Mhm.
thing, and
Mhm.
but I think that being in that and being able to name that about yourself and being able to, um, remember that we are human. And for survivors, bringing that back into the picture is so important because it's always been about dehumanization.
Mm.
And so reminding, laughter is to be human, to laugh at something and to be able to see things through a different lens, um, with someone that trust or someone that is a trusted friend or someone that has earned your trust, um, can begin to break some of that ice and help start to thaw some of those places that need God's beauty and warmth and to understand, who you are, who you were created to be. I think for me, the scripture that God gave me when I first got out of the industry was, and I wasn't really reading my Bible, so I don't know how he managed to get this scripture to me, but was Psalm 18:19. He delights in me. He rescued me because he delighted in me. And sitting with that, like he delights. There's so much behind delight. There is laughter and delight. There is joy and delight. There is and he delights in me no matter what I've been doing. He's just waiting and been delighting in me. And when I realized that, it broke my heart.
Mm.
And I think I just saw myself through his eyes. And that's why I named my program Cherished, because I really want women to see themselves through his eyes. And it's not my job to do that, but I just set the table and make the place and hope that that's what will happen.
I wonder, it, I'll just put it bluntly. Do you have a sense of how proud your earthly father is of you?
Mm. Oh, thank you.
I mean, we don't have to wander into my view that those who have passed and are still present, they are part of the surrounding, cheering, watchful. But this is a part of your story that I don't know, but the loss of your dad at age 5 and the context of grief, loss, threat, danger was simply part, yet there was music. There was something of the presence of jazz. And in that, there is something of music you do bring. You're aware of that. And you may not be in a band, but you've created a band. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yes.
And
Mm,
a band with many, many, many women who have learned to sing a very different song,
mm,
from despair to defiant joy, from a sense of soul being consumed and lost to, again, that image of being cherished. And I think that's, again, where I would say, um, you know, the likelihood of many hearing this and choosing to go, you know, this is a group of human beings I would love to get to know. And I would say, like, if you check out your website, check out ICAP, the International Christian Alliance on Prostitution. I mean, Becky and I would say, can hardly say it without tears. Some of the most glorious and amazing human beings we have ever met do this work with human trafficking.
mhm.
And though we don't do that work directly, we have some degree of engagement. And uh, you are you are a stunning picture of God's delight. And it just broke my heart when you realized that you would be on camera, and to know I don't need to know any more of your story than to know that you've been on cameras and those images have been used to decimate and violate and exploit. And just choosing to do this work, let alone being on camera with us, even if no one can see us other than the three of us, you have chosen to step across boundaries that evil would have preferred for your heart to be bound by. And in that, I mean, we are so proud of you, so proud of you. And I can say without question, so is your father. So thank you, Kate. Thank you for giving us an invitation into something of the absolute wonder of redemption.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, if you do want more information or want to contact Kate or order her book, you can find her at www.kateouimette-wedell.com. We'll have this in the show notes, so you could look for it there. You can find her book on Amazon. And you can also support survivors and her work with Cherished LA at cherishedla.org. So again, we'll make sure all these things are in the show notes so that you can find them. Kate, it's just so stunning to hear from you, but also to learn from you. And I think one of the things I'm most struck by as we come to a close is just your naming, probably for all of us, that the healing work never ends. Like, there's always more healing for us, even as we're trying to create context for others. And I just think that there's something really powerful about that kind of that confession, I would say, for myself. Like, the places we get caught where we go, oh, there's more. There's more. And we're doing good work, and there's more. So
and yay, there's more.
And yay, there's more. Yes, right? How boring. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So good to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The Allender Center podcast is produced by the Seattle School of Theology and Psychology.
If you'd like more information about the Allender Center, you can look at theallendercenter.org.